What's up, guys? We're doing a live stream today. We'll see how it goes. Let's just make sure everything's working. Looks like sound's on. Test, test. Let's just double check. Test, test. All right, we're good. What's up, guys? We're going to be making some matrix stuff. Basically, I'm going to be using a plugin I'm releasing pretty soon. So it's like a free plugin. I posted about on LinkedIn and stuff like that. Also X. If you guys follow me on those platforms, I've been talking about it. Basically, it is a plugin that allows you to warp images or videos along a roto path, which is interesting. And it's sort of a concept I've been obsessed with for like a while. So I finally got around to like building a tool with it, which is pretty cool. I'll just demonstrate it really quick, and then I'll actually get into like what we're actually doing here. So this is a part of it. I already did this part, so I'm going to be messing around with basically a 3D scene. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm going to be kind of winging it. We'll see where we get. I don't know if I'm getting into any kind of endpoint with this. Typically on these type of streams, I'm just experimenting with stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But let's just show exactly what it is I'm talking about. So I'll take an image, and we'll also just let some people jump in here. It looks like a few people are coming in. So let's show what this is first. So the basic concept of this is, actually, you know what? I'll just let a few more people jump in because we got 15 people, just so I don't have to re-explain it later. But I'll draw this just in case. So essentially, we have a roto shape. Any shape we can use. We can also use other 2D points. But essentially what I wanted to do was have a way to flow images across this path. So if I hit this roto shape and I go to create an open spline, I'm going to do this, create an open spline. And then I'm going to take my image that I want to warp across this and basically just hit update, sample roto. Essentially what this does, if I just reformat this to make sure that this is the right format here, we'll say 1080. And we'll make sure our projects are like that. Okay, good. So basically it's warping this image across a spline path, which I've never seen as a Nuke tool before. And this is something I've been doing other ways in the past. And it's kind of like, feels like a tool that we should have had a long time ago. So it's something that I wanted to put together. But essentially if I animate this color wheel from left to right, essentially what it is it's flowing across a UV coordinate path of that roto. So it's taking our roto path and creating a UV coordinate system across that specific shape. So if you imagine with 3D, if you have like a strip of geometry and you wanted to, it's basically UV'd in a certain way from the starting point on one side and the ending point on the other. And that's all it is. And so it's kind of faking like a 3D geometry. And so that's essentially how it works. And if we take this and we transform from left to right, we'll see that this essentially slides across this path, which is pretty cool. It's just a new way to warp images. That's really what it is. And now there's a million things that come to my mind when I look at something like this in terms of how this could be used. But let's just show a little bit further how this is actually working. So if I look inside this script here, let it load for a second. It'll take a little bit of a second. This is what's actually being created. So you may recognize this pattern if you've ever used UVs or ST maps in the past. This is essentially what's being generated from 2D points, which is pretty cool considering that, you know, we don't have any 3D geometry. And this tool, it actually allows you to do this without having roto as well. So you can actually do it with any 2D point that you manually set. So in theory, you could have, you could actually take 3D points and you could use those as anchors to create these basically like a flow map. And you could flow images across that, even if it's a 2.5D effect. So in my mind, some things like, you know, if you wanted a character flying by in a scene and you wanted some kind of energy trail flowing off of that character, you could create 3D axes and basically create this UV path and stretch energy effects across it. So it's a new way to do effects, basically. Now, if you've watched an old video, I'm just going to pull up this old video because it's kind of relevant. Let me just give you a second. You guys can hit me up in the chat as well. If anybody's here, I see some people watching, but where are you guys coming in from? Let me just pull up a video quick to show what I'm explaining. Let's see. So this video, I'm just going to open this up here. All right, so this, if you guys have watched my channel for, it was a few years ago, I posted this video. But this effect was a similar approach where you have a flowing energy effect across a path. And this is pretty cool, but you have to have 3D geometry to do it. So the way that I was generating these basically 3D geometries was I was using a VR headset because there's an app called Gravity Sketch. I think it was Gravity Sketch, or it was Gravity Sketch, because Gravity Sketch has the UVs, correct? So essentially, this is what it is. So I had these energy effects that I created a library of, and these patterns are flowing across 3D strips of geometry. So I just took a 2D image, I brought it into VR, and I traced the image, creating these 3D paths, basically. So you can see here what I'm doing. I'm basically tracing these little weird lines. That's what this blue strip is. And that's cool. So basically, that's like the only way to do this type of effect. You want images to flow across a path. And so a lot of times how this would be traditionally done is like a Houdini artist might simulate something actually flowing on a path. But what if we want to do it in comp? And there are a lot of times that I think that's actually justified, especially considering a lot of times compositors, we just get like an alpha from an effects artist, and then we just, we make it glow or whatever. But if there's not a significant amount of parallax, sometimes it's actually faster to iterate on these type of effects in Nuke. And so it's always a question of like, do you do this in Nuke or do you do it in Houdini? Who's creating the effect, and which way is it going to be better? And a lot of times there's a lot more I think you can actually do in comp than people like think of traditionally. I think back to like Andrew Kramer. I think back to his really clever techniques of using noise patterns and polar distorts and offsetting and basically doing these type of techniques. And I think that plus having a 2.5D system like Nuke, the combination of the two is still sort of underrated. Like people aren't always thinking like that. We're always just thinking, oh, we'll just do it in Houdini or do it that way. But fundamentally, the first principle of like, how do we want to approach a visual effect? There's a lot of ways to do any kind of effect. So it's just like, how much parallax is there? What can we do? How much can we get away with, etc. So, how's it going, guys? What's up? What's up? Oh, that's all good. What up? What up? Just checking the chat. So, anyways, this idea I've had is basically like, okay, it's cool, but I don't want to have to go into VR to get this little geometry strip like this. So I've been doing this technique. I've actually used this technique on films before when there was like, hey, we're kind of short on resources. Can we just create an effect like this? And so I would take something like HigX, which is a particle generator, and I would create 2D patterns, basically stock elements. And then I would use that and reroute them onto the 3D geometry. And the reason for doing it like that is because you can do all kinds of warps. You can do all kinds of interesting smearing or time offsets in a way that if you're working directly with the 3D particles, you're not going to be able to easily get that effect on that path. And so that's sort of the purpose here. So yeah, this is the tool that's going to be coming out. So like I said, I just said it early in the stream, this tool is a new tool I made that basically allows you to do this without needing the 3D geometry. That's the whole point here. And so there are a bunch of scenarios in which this could be useful. You could even have like a single ember flowing across a path like this. And instead of having to animate something and rotate it along the path, this is changing orientation. So if I take this color wheel and we can stretch it a little bit too. Sometimes with these, you need to stretch them because it is kind of stretching it across the UVs. So if we just kind of make it a little bit smaller, we can get more of a circle effect here. We're kind of counteracting the warping that's going on here. And we could also just shrink it down a tiny bit as well. So if I just shrink it down a tiny bit, we can get just if we just wanted like a circle and we wanted that circle to move along the path, that would be pretty easy to do. We just have to kind of counteract the warping that's happening. So let's just do it here. Let's just say, I'll just start at the beginning. I'm going to do a full tutorial on this as well with a few different examples. I think sometimes these concepts are hard to explain without just visually seeing the creative example. This is like the tech demo version of it, but I think the creative application is actually very, very interesting. So let's just close this. And then we'll go to the end. So I'm just going here at the start frame, setting a key, and then going to the end. And then I'm just going to basically move this along the path. So let's see, give it here. So again, very simple. We have an image moving from, we'll let it cache here for a second. Literally an image moving from left to right. Now we're counteracting it because the longer the path is, the more warped this picture is going to become. So you can play with the formats, and there's various ways to maintain better resolution. So we can stretch the format to be more basically relative to the length of the path. Now I'm not doing this here because I'm just doing a quick demonstration, but when I do the full tutorial, I'll show some more creative ways to kind of maintain that quality as well. But just for a quick demo, we can see, let's just see. So we have this little sphere and it's moving literally just along a roto path, but it's also rotating, which is pretty cool. So now where can this be useful? Like how can we start to do more interesting things? That's basically what I'm going to start playing with here. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm doing a video. This is going to be, it's kind of like it's going to be like a matrix style thing. But I did this matrix style flowing effect around the Nuke logo by doing this. And this would be not that easy to do otherwise, to be honest. Like you need some kind of 3D geometry. You'd have to do it in 3D or et cetera, et cetera. But if you actually notice the edges around the Nuke logo are flowing around the logo itself. It's not just a noise pattern that's masked in one direction. So we can get something like this where these things are actually going around the curvature, which is pretty interesting. So let me just open up another thing. I'm going to pull in an element here just to give another example of this. Let's see. Give it 1 second. Just let me pull in one element. Energy beam. Okay, I have a few energy beams. I have a big library of effects. So we'll just load one of these up and we'll just make sure that that's loaded. So this is another example of this. So if we wanted to bend this thing or make it flow along a path, how would you do it? You have to ask yourself, how would you do this normally? If it's a grid warp or a spline warp, that's not going to be a very good solution to get this to be really bent. So that's not how we want to do it. And that's like, this is one example of where we could redirect this effect without having to go into 3D and simulate the whole thing. So let me just add some color to this to make it a little bit more interesting before I start like bending this thing. So I can just like make it a bit red. Maybe we'll go green because we're doing matrix stuff. Let's see. We'll just kind of go up like this. Maybe we'll desaturate it. Got to make it look cool at least. I'm not about tech demos. We still want to make stuff look cool. So let's make it look interesting first. So we'll desaturate the highlights a little bit. Pretty simple. A little bit of color in the edges. A little bit of desaturate in the highlights. I've shown this before. If you've seen my stuff, that's a pretty simple way to make a laser. Kind of like a lightsaber. It's like white in the center. And we can maybe just glow it up a little bit as well. So we'll just do it. Put a glow. And we'll plus it on. And we'll mix it down a tiny bit. Okay, something like that. Maybe we do the glow after the warp, but whatever. That should work for what we're trying to show. Now, let's grab the same thing. The flow warp. And I'll put it on here. Let's just make sure we kind of reformat this thing to be like a normal format. I don't want to do this on a 4K. Might be a little bit slow to cache if we want to watch it. So let's reformat it, and then we'll put this onto here. Also make sure my project set it to 1080, which it is. And okay, now let's try this. All right, so let's flow warp this thing. We'll go here. We'll do a little roto. Let's draw a new shape. We'll just draw something different just to show it works on any path. We don't want to do a Bezier. We want to do a open spline. So we want to make sure it's an open spline because we don't want it to have a closed edge. Although you can make it loop back around, but you're always going to have a little bit of a seam, and there's ways to fix that, which maybe I'll show it later in the stream. But if I hit this and I hit sample roto, this will update, and you see that it goes onto our roto shape. Now, the curvature of this thing is being calculated based on the distance between the points. So I actually added a tightness control to this, so you can actually bend this closer to, if you want like sharp edges like this, you can bend it to the edges. Or if you want smooth edges for where it kind of like roughly, bends around the corners, you can also do that. And you can also basically increase the width here. So we want to increase the max distance, and that's essentially the width, essentially of this effect. So now we can see we have this thing flowing around our edges. And what's cool about this effect is, before I was showing how you needed to kind of animate it from left to right. Now, maybe you don't always want an object moving down the path. Maybe you're just trying to bend an image in a complex way. And there's a number of scenarios in which I can imagine that would be useful, like even bending a piece of hair or a piece of grass. If you have a significant bend, grid warp, spline warp, they're not that good of solutions. So that in those scenarios, I think it could be useful. But honestly, I think it's mostly going to be an interesting look development tool. And I also think it could be a good way to redirect existing elements. Like maybe you have some particles that are blowing up in one direction, but you want them to sort of move along with an object. This would be a good way to bend those things. So if I hit play, we can see that playing here. And now this beam is essentially flowing across. And we don't have any artifacting. We don't have any like problems here. On the edge here, it gets a little bit cropped off. So we could take a crop node just to make sure, and we could feather that in too. So sometimes you can just do a little softness control in our crop, and then we could warp that onto our curve and get a nicer effect here. Now another thing we could do, another control I have added here is, let's see, tapering. So that's going to be useful for essentially bending images and making them, taper towards the edge. So let's check this out. Put this on. That's not what we want. We want to switch this to this. And we can reduce the width here just so it's not so crazy. And something like this. So here you can see this image being warped onto this. And then we can also taper the ends. So that's the center. We can also taper the edges like this. Pretty cool. Now that could be useful for a bunch of different things, but you have to be creative with these things. It's like if I was showing you a noise pattern, people would be like, what is a noise pattern for? So that's why I'm going to have to show some more examples of where creatively this can be used. But this is just showing the tool right now. So that's cool. I was even playing with embers on this. So one of the things that sometimes a compositor, hey, you want to add a little ember to the end of your scene. You want to have a flyby in a certain direction. Even those type of very simple things could be useful. But let's pull in another element actually just to show this. So I'll just put this back on because this one is a little bit more interesting. The laser stretching here. We also have a number of samples. So I'll put this at a really low sample number to show one more example of this. So if you have a really low sample number, I'll just put a different image so we can see it a little bit better. Let's put like a circle or something, because then we can actually see specifically what this does. Plug this, and we'll shrink this down a little bit so it's not huge. And we'll increase the number of samples here. Maybe we need to increase, actually we probably need to increase the scale horizontally. So let me just see what I can do. Okay, so this is, I just want to show how the samples works. So when you have really low samples, you see that the curvature is being sort of harshly cut, which most of the time you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want like a lot of samples. But if you do want some type of effect where you have like a broken up edge, or you want maybe a dot pattern, think of things like a circuit board. a circuit board would have a point that moves across. That could be an example of where you'd want to use something like a low number of samples. So that could be a very interesting way to use this as well. Like creating a circuit board in Nuke right now is actually not the easiest thing, because again, it's like flowing across a certain path. So that's another way to use it. UV blur, etc. So that's pretty much the gist of this tool. I'll show one more. Let's see. What up? What up? What's up, Cinema Motions? How's it going, man? Lucifer. Lucifer, it's gonna be out in like I don't know, like a week or something. I'm just working on it right now. Basically, working. This stream is supposed to be me talking about the effect I'm actually making right now. So I'm actually showing this, not this one. This is part of the effect, but this. So I'm showing the tool that I'm going to be using in this, but I'm actually working on a full like mini shot. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's going to be like kind of a meme of zooming into the node graph, and that's going to turn into like a matrix effect. So basically have this thing. I'm at a little rectangle here, and then I'm going to be zooming into we're going to be zooming into our node, and then basically we're going to be going through the node. It's going to turn into like a matrix effect. This is way too saturated. It kind of looks like crap right now, but it's not going to. And then we're going to do a nice like Moire effect as we go through it. So like, have you ever seen those screen effects? Stuff like this, we get these like really trippy lines. Yeah, this is like kind of what it's gonna like pass through the screen. If you ever watch The Matrix, I actually do the effect. But essentially, you know, I can warp this. If I go here, I can warp this effect based on the edges and different things. This is a different effect I made. This is a Moire generator. I have a tutorial out there for free. It's like how to make this just with the default Nuke nodes. This is Blink script because it's a little bit faster. It's GPU accelerated. But you can literally just do this with like 2 grid patterns. You can just like stack 2 grid patterns without the line, without the horizontal. So if you have like 2 like this, one line, another line, merge them over each other, mask one by the other one, and then rotate one by a few degrees, you see you get this interference pattern. And this pattern is essentially what Moire actually is, which is pretty cool, because then you can like, that's how you would start to essentially like create these like weird television effects. So if I do like a grid warp on one of them, and then we just warp it like a little bit, you see we get these like crazy weird bending stuff, and as I zoom in, it looks like a broken TV. So this is literally just from bending 2 different grids together, and you just merge them like this, and you get this like crazy effect. So that's like what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be like passing through the node graph and then kind of just showing an effect at the end. If you want to make a tool of this, you could do it literally just like this, actually. Just like 2 grids together. One has a rotation, and then you just put a little bit of a grid warp in between, and you can get this crazy warping effect. So I have a video that goes over this process, and I also show how to make the colors if you want to make some crazy rainbow colors in here, which is this. This is this node setup. I won't explain it here just because there's already a video out for it, but essentially we have this, and you can get these rainbow effects into the edges. And this would be a good way to make like, I don't know, like a matrix style type of thing as you're passing through the screen. You know, we want to do some kind of transition effect. So that's like, that's what we got. And this one is a little bit different. I don't know. I'm still playing around with this one. This is kind of, we'll see where it goes. I don't know if this is even better than the approach that with just the lines. But you can kind of warp these. However you decide to warp these grids will affect the resulting interference pattern. So you can use something like even a noise pattern in a glass node, and then you could take this, swap them around. And so if we warp one of the grids, not that much, let me just smooth it out. Any amount of warp will actually basically create these patterns. So that's kind of interesting. And then you could just animate, you would just take the noise and you would just animate it very slightly. And then you just apply the colors after, and then you have some crazy stuff. Like this. I'm gonna make, yeah, I have a bunch of glitch tools. That's probably the next big tool I'm gonna release, is like I have a whole suite of tools I'm making that make all kinds of distortions and stuff like this, even more advanced than this actually. Because I don't think there's a lot of tools out there that do those type of things in the way that I want them. So it'll probably be free as well, I'm thinking, or maybe that would be a paid one. I don't know. It depends how long it takes me to put it together. But this flow warp one, which is really useful, I'm just gonna put it for free, so it'll be like a free download thing. Anyways, so for this effect, we're gonna start talking about what I'm doing here. So basically, I have a node graph image I'm zooming into, and then it's going to turn into a matrix. So let's like load this up and let me clear my cache so it's not slow. So this is like a preview of the tutorial that's coming out, I guess. We'll let it load here for a second. And if you guys haven't seen this meme, let me just load it up. This is true. You know what? We'll just pause and watch it. Because this meme is true. Let's see.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So that's the meme. I have a better idea for one. I'm going to do it next. The After Effects users are going to hate me at the end of this, but I'm only trying to help. So, so what we're doing here, we're zooming into this pattern. Maybe I shouldn't use deep right here because this is going to be slow on stream, but maybe I could like pre-comp this out because it's literally just making an alpha. Let's load it up here. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm putting a grid pattern on here, or I'm creating this like distortion pattern. So what we're gonna do is like, we're gonna pass through this like little mini portal, and then this is gonna be like, that's where we do like a transition effect. And then I'll also have, where is it? This is kind of a messy script because I'm kind of just playing around with concepts right now. Where? Should have a 3D scene somewhere of my. Here it is. So then we're gonna go into like a hallway shot. You know the famous Matrix shot if there's like a hallway, and I'm gonna do the Nuke logo at the end of it. So that will be this one. We'll grab this guy and this guy. We'll bring it over here. Put this here. Grab this, and we'll put it. Let's just get it on a card at least, just to show you guys what I'm doing exactly. But yeah, we're gonna go in some meme wars against After Effects because the problem is there's a misunderstanding of what compositing is, and this is sort of hard to tell people about what Nuke is without people understanding what compositing is as well. So that's part of the struggle here with like trying to show what Nuke's capable of. So we're gonna go in some meme wars. It's gonna happen. Might get some flack for it, but we're gonna do it anyway. Let's see. All right, so let's offset this. Just make it start at the right part. All right, so this is a nicer green as well. I don't want my stuff to be like ugly. Whatever this is. This is not the most saturated, or too saturated rather. Let's put this here. This is gonna be at the end of it. Maybe that's too far away. Maybe I don't want to do a full hallway because then I have to make a full hallway. Maybe I'll just make it kind of closer because we don't want to. I can go crazy on this, but we gotta like keep this keep it in a scope here. I have a tendency of not overcomplicating things, but spending way too long on details that don't matter, for YouTube at least. Maybe for a film it matters, but for YouTube, nobody will notice. So I need to figure that out. So we'll try to get a version that's halfway between looking cool, but not going overboard on the amount of time I'm going to spend on this thing. All right, let's also grade this similar to this other one. And this also is a plugin I'll release for free. This is another, I've been messing around a lot with Blink Script. This is a Blink Script thing, actually, which is just making this like sort of like a, it's not quite matrix because they're not really symbols, they're just spheres. But I don't know, it's pretty cool. I think you could use it for holograms and all kinds of stuff. Where's my grade node? Let's find it. Excuse me. So we have this, we have this. I'm just gonna copy this portion and this. And we'll copy that. I think this is supposed to be here. For discounts, I mean, we'll have Black Friday. That will be the big one, but that's not until December. There might be one in between, I'm not sure, but I would have to look at there's a schedule for those type of things. All right, so that's a little bit too bright. Let's just not make it blow out. These glow nodes can be a little bit tricky because it kind of blows everything out very easily. It's not the right thing. I don't want it to be too blown out. I don't want to copy the matrix effect entirely, but I want it to be kind of close. So it's kind of an interesting look. We can do this. And then let's center this. Yeah, I'll have to like create some geometry for the floor or something as well, just because I do want it to flow on the path there. I have an idea on how to make it not look weird. What I did here was I UV'd this center area so that the effect flows around the edges. It's kind of similar to what I was explaining before. So obviously the tutorial is going to be about the 2D tool, but I still like to use the UV technique for certain things, like basically just UVing things in a how would I call it? I just like the UVs of this. You see the UVs are going straight from left to right. For anyone who's used like 3D stuff, basically all you have to do, for anyone who knows a tiny bit of 3D, you just cut a seam right in the center and just do an unwrap. And if you have something like this, essentially the starting point would be like here where my cursor is, and then it's flowing all the way around, and then the end point is here. So that's an easy way to make patterns go around things. If you just lay out strips of geometry. So that's how this pattern is being laid out. So I have this glitch pattern, which I'm going to animate. It's not really animated right now. I have a tool that, this is going to be part of the glitch plugin I release as well. I have a whole bunch of really cool ones, but this is just one of them. You can change the amount here, and it's based on a texture. So we have like this noise texture, and basically putting it into the plugin, and this will give you these like crazy glitch patterns. And then you can animate these. So like if I animate the noise pattern, we'll get a nice like sort of looks like a compression or something like that. So that's what this is gonna be. I do wanna do some other things here too. There's some other tools I'm gonna release as well with that. I have one tool I use a lot is like a polar distort. You guys have probably maybe seen me use. If you ever watched the some of the older tutorials I have where I was like warping stuff into like lines into spheres. I have one similar to this, but it does more of like rectangles, or it does different geometric shapes. So you can take linear shape things and shape them into different warped shapes, which again is really useful for this look development type of workflow. If you want to make force fields or holograms or like any type of sci-fi effects, knowing how to manipulate patterns and create unique shapes and flowing those shapes across different geometries or characters, that's how you have to be able to do that. And so I'm trying to create more tools to make it a little bit easier, versus having to rely always on having 3D simulations, which oftentimes, like I said, it's not necessary. So let's see. I want to move this a little bit higher on our edge. So let's move this up. Move this up towards the edge, and then we'll see what that looks like on the geometry. So we're gonna have one that's kind of a little bit 3D looking going into the tunnel, and then we have some that are gonna be like more going out into the flat image. So I need to create, actually, you know, I probably need to UV project this thing. Maybe I don't need it because I could just use a fly card and I could invert it. That's possible. We'll have to play with it. Let's just get this one working first. Let's just play with the colors first too, because it's hard to tell without getting the contrast roughly right. So I'm going to copy some of this stuff onto this glitch effect, and we'll just put it here, and let's just see if that looks a little bit better. That's a little better. Yeah, I don't want this like crazy forest green. I want more of like whatever this is, a bit more cold looking. Let's see. Yeah. So giving that a little desaturation helps, makes it not so solid one color. We could also do like a sat save thing. So this is basically just this, I think I've showed this on stream before, but linear to HSV, do a gamma correction, and then you convert it back. What this allows us to do is to add contrast without affecting the saturation. So if I gamma down here, you're essentially adding contrast, but it's not saturating everything overly amount, which is a problem whenever you gamma stuff, to be honest. But it's not exactly doing what I'm looking for here. Let's just try a normal gamma and see. It's almost like there's not that much range in the midtones. We could do a key or probably do something. So just do a luminous key. Maybe you know what? We could actually do a quadratic luma key. I think I use this on every stream, but it's okay. Let's just double check this. We need to clamp the highlights for this tool. It needs to be 0 to 1, and then usually it's like it has to be like 0.98. There's like a kind of a quirk. I need to fix it, but it's fine. It's fine for now. Quadratic luma key. It's gonna roll off our highlights like a what is it, inverse squared? I think it is. Whatever the fall off for light is. So I can get like a nicer roll off in the highlights versus a normal luminance key, which is just going to give a nicer range, this whole thing. Maybe I could even multiply that. I could mask this against the original, actually. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So you see I'm trying to force some more range into the shadow areas, just to get a little more of like breakup in this this like glitch effect. That's better. Yeah, that's looking better. So a lot of times with these like look dev stuff as well, my scripts will just be like, you know, I'll just like go out, I'll just spread it. It's like a sandbox. I'll figure out what it is I'm trying to design, and then I'll actually work it back into like a main script. That's how it would normally work. So, you know, seeing all these things scatter like this is not how I work in an actual shot. And this is like when I'm teaching people, we got to teach like the right way to do it and all those things. But if you're doing a sandbox, I would call this like a sandbox. You're trying to discover what the effect is supposed to even look like. And so that's just like, it's more divergent thinking. It's more just like experimenting. So that's what I would say. This is kind of cool though. Let's do this and just crop it. I have a pretty big bounding box. What's up, Freddy? With the peace signs. I don't even know how to do that. All right. All right, so that looks kind of interesting. My image is not lined up though. That's interesting. Let's see. So I have my rectangle, I have this thing, deep merge. Let's try something. Technically, you don't need deep for this, but it should be fine. You could do it all within one thing probably. Let's just make sure. I think this is what's causing it. Yeah. Okay, so this needs to be. I'm going to duplicate this to this part. This combined with this to this. Just going to rewire some stuff here and make this a little bit different. Okay, this to this to this should be correct. This stencil this, and this is still slightly off. Just make sure that this is correctly scaled. That looks right. And this looks right. Technically, I could just mask what I do. This guy, we can make that white. That would be easier. That might be easier. Let's try that. Put this under here. Basically, I'm trying to create a hole with this thing. Let's see. This is this one, and our front one is here. Let's make it black. I'll just do it 2D. I don't think I need deep for this. It's probably overcomplicating it. Make it black with a solid alpha. Just make a holdout. And there we go. So that would be fine. We could do it the opposite way. This the black. I don't know why this is not solid white. This should be solid white. Okay, here we go. This should be white. White, black. And then we'll put a card behind it. Card behind it. Just to make it pure white. Let's expand this a little bit so we have space. Card behind it. Put this white. Okay, that works. I'm gonna delete the deep comp nodes. Sorry. Yeah, I'm actually gonna delete them. I was using it to create a holdout, but I'm just gonna create it in 2D like this. Earth, sorry. I'm just gonna create a black and white one. I don't think I actually need deep. It's just slowing it down most likely, so Just do it through one scan line. And then this is the hole. So this is the stencil. So this A, stencil B. Let's just zoom out so you can see it. Essentially, you can like cut out scanline renders against each other by using deep if you want. This, let's shuffle that to the alpha, red to alpha, this to this, get a hole, get a thing in the hole. There we go. All right. Now let's put this a little bit higher. Yeah, I mean, deep just exists to cut out 3D objects against each other. That's really all it exists for. You can do it directly inside one scan line if it's all within Nuke. Otherwise, you can use deep. Sometimes, I don't know, just use deep because you don't have to deal with like changing colors of things like I was doing here. But literally the whole end goal is to just get this image, just a black and white holdout of something. That's all deep is actually for the majority of the time. But the way you organize those things and the way you structure those things when you're dealing with really complex deep compositing, then it becomes more important to know some various like principles about it. But on a very simple level, that's what it is. All right, let's not crash, hopefully. So here I'm gonna try to do something interesting. Let me do my polar distort. I have one I made somewhere. Did I save it? Let's check the other script because I did build a tool that does it. You know what? Let me just make sure I pull it in because I have a tool that I made that warps images in a different way. And that's what I'm gonna need here, I think. Let me check. Nuke rectangle. All right, let's copy this in. Link script. I don't think it's compiled even, but we'll just do it. Okay, so this thing should, if it works, let's copy it to the correct scene. Have this thing, but I can flip it. There we go. So this tool is pretty cool. So this essentially, it's like a polar distort, like I said. So a polar distort, for those who don't know, if you have a grid, let's say a line, even just a line, let's just do a line. Let's show it. Something like this. Want to make it a circle. We want to make that effect flow around. We just do a polar distort. This is Andrew Kramer stuff back in the day. Like he was doing this all the time. So this is like After Effects, old school techniques. You know, I think they call it texture coordinate. What is it called? Polar something in After Effects. I don't even remember the name, but this is the same concept. Now this one though, this I made a version that does the same thing, but it does it in the shape of a square. And that's cool because then I can make this, actually I can create the edge effect around this without having to like flip this thing 90 degrees like 4 different times and then trying to align it or trying to get all the edges to connect and all those kind of things. So it's essentially the same concept, but it'll work. And also I added a corner radius control, so you can shift between something a little bit more smooth or something a little bit more like geometric. But I want the geometric one. Of course, you could also do this by wrapping it under a 3D geometry. The same technique we did here where we UV'd it. You could do it that way, but that would take a lot more time. This is pretty fast to just like literally chuck it on there. So let me think now for a second. What do I have to do? Move this down. So you see what I'm doing here. I have the inside edge, the one we're gonna fly through, but I want something on the outside edge. So that's what this one's gonna be for. This one's gonna be, I'm gonna scale that up a little bit, and then I can use this to create the outside edge. So why are we cropping off? Let's make sure we are not. We'll take this. I think that'll work. Let's try that. And I'll project this onto a card. So do I want to project it? Let me think. I think we would want to project it, but I think I could just try to scale it. So we might get some crisscrossing, but it's all right. Let's see. Nuke is like anything. I mean, you know what? The Nuke is not as hard to learn as something like, you know, it's not like the learning curve of Houdini or something. Like you can get a hold of the main concepts pretty fast. It's not as intimidating as something like Houdini. I think you can learn it. Like you can be making shots within like a week, if you focus on the right skills. So, I mean, Nuke itself is a very simple tool. It's just more like, how do you use the tool? That's where it becomes like, where do you become more advanced? Because these nodes are really simple. You know, there's nothing overly complicated about these very, very simple nodes. Like there's no like hard concept to understand. You don't have to understand vector math or something like that. It's very, very simple concepts. And you're pretty much just, you know, it's more the sort of image things. What I'm doing creatively is probably harder to learn here because that's more like playing with patterns. And the only way to learn that is to experiment and actually play around with stuff. You have to be kind of curious and just like play around with the tools themselves. I think that's harder to learn, mainly because you just have to play with it to sort of like get the mental connections. But I mean, it always helps to see like different examples of how to do it. So I think that's part of it. So what I'm doing is here, I'm creating the outer edge. So I'm gonna place this around here. This is gonna be a 2D one because it's supposed to be on a flat. We're going into a 3D one, but this front one is gonna be 2D. So this matrix one is not yeah, it's not I mean, I don't know. It's really just a lot of like playing with little patterns and stuff. Yeah, like I said, a lot of it is just flipping it to circle, projecting it onto different shapes. It's all basic geometric shapes, and then playing with the textures you put on those shapes. So if you're doing wormholes or look development or a force field or anything like that, it's always the same thing. It's just like there's just like that creative process, I think. I for some reason have, like when I was working on a lot of movies, I was getting assigned these shots a lot because I don't know, I got into this weird niche of making force fields and all these like energy effects. So I've done a lot of like thrusters and those type of 2.5D like look development, I guess. That's like my favorite. This is like my favorite stuff to do, to be honest, in compositing. It's almost on the touching the edge of motion graphics, I would say. But motion graphics is not exactly the same thing, so I'm not sure. This is a little bit too big. So let's shrink this down a tiny bit. And then that kind of works. Maybe a little bit darker. It looks like additive. Do I have an alpha for this thing? I do, but I don't think it matches. So I could just do a keyer to adjust the alpha. If you ever see like something that looks a little bit additive, it's because you adjusted the colors and not the alpha. But I don't know if I need to here. I just need to like kind of play with the contrast a little bit too bright. It's like way too bright. Honestly, this should be like a plus anyway, so I don't even know why. I don't think I want that to be a like a opaque looking. Not that matters. We're kind of putting out the gray anyways. So let's adjust this. Maybe I can do this little corner radius control here. This is where this little tool is pretty cool. You can kind of adjust the smoothness of the edge of this bend. And that's kind of cool. If I want more blockiness, I can also stretch the image before putting it in. So maybe I'll just grab this whole thing. I think I'll make this its own effect, to be honest, just because I have done some Houdini. I don't find it, I think it's just time intensive. You know, I think that's what it is. To become really proficient at Houdini, it's a very time intensive thing. So I can't speak that much on it, to be honest. I've only messed around with it a bit. For me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to learn it because it doesn't really align with the objectives that I have. I'm not trying to become like an effects artist or something like that. So it's like, that's not really my objective. Like I use Blender because it's fast, and I use it because a lot of tools exist that I would rather assemble Legos and sort of like make a scene than build every Lego from scratch. And it feels like a lot of times in Houdini you're kind of building things from scratch. That's not to say there's probably a bunch of like plugins and tools and stuff like that. I'm sure like Houdini people are going to correct me here, but that's just, for me, it's a speed thing. That's kind of, at least my opinion of it. How do I make this a little bit less? I'll make these a little bit smaller and a little bit taller. Wait, adjust this. That's, yeah, like more broken up. That's kind of cool. And then I could key out the darker stuff. Yeah, this kind of works. I'm gonna run this through like another tool anyway, so it's like it might not be this harsh like pixelated. I mean, this is a pretty harsh like pixelated edge, I guess. Why is this misaligned now all of a sudden? Let's just double check this. That's fine. This is fine. I think it's just my alpha or something. Like, oh yeah, it's weird. It's getting like this weird dark stuff. Let's just get rid of it. And then this is a plus anyway. It shouldn't matter. We'll pre-multi out the bad stuff. And then we'll just boost it a tiny bit. We'll do a quadratic luma key thing. This thing, I'm gonna use it again. Gonna use it again. So look at the difference. If you look at a quadratic luma key and you look at the normal key, right? This difference here, that looks very, it doesn't look like it's like pinging the highlights. This thing automatically pings all the highlights for you. This would normally be 2 or 3 keys. So it's just saving you a bit of like work every single time. It's like there's so many situations where you need the highlights to roll off this way. So I don't know, I think it's easier. Oh yeah, the thruster thing. Sam Sloan, I remember that. The thrusters back in the day. Yeah, I did some thrusters, some 2.5D thrusters. I did a lot of thrusters. Done some on Alien as well. I don't know why, but keep getting assigned thruster shots over and over. What are those people saying? Sorry, I'm just reading the thing. Once you have grasped the concept of node-based, sorry, I'm just reading all these. Yeah, I know. I'm sure Houdini is like crazy. So I'm not. You want to learn it, learn it. There are compositors who know Houdini as well, and they're killers. So I have nothing against people who want to like learn extra stuff. Learn whatever pairing of skills you have. If you pair either adjacent skills or like very distant skills, it's gonna make you unique in some way. So that's yeah, that'll be interesting. All right, let's see. Why is it warped on one side though? Something weird. Looks normal. Here it doesn't. Well, maybe it's just the noise pattern. Let's just check this actually. I think it might be this. Yeah, we'll try this. Hopefully it doesn't crash. So RTX 3090, so it should be good. Link script is pretty cool. It makes things very fast. Why are we starting at frame 99 though? There we go. Shorten this. Global. I mean, references help, you know, that's for sure. If you know people and they trust you, it's gonna help. That's like it's just the that's just the truth of it for sure. But I would say like if you have stuff, just post it as well. I don't think anyone posts their stuff for some reason. Like nobody does side projects, and I don't know why. I've always been someone who really likes doing my own side projects, which is how I've learned like a lot. I've learned a lot more. Well, I wouldn't say more, but I would say equal in doing my own stuff, especially like experimental stuff that you're not gonna be doing often, especially when you get in the routine of certain types of work. There's a diminishing return on, I would say, like the type of learning you're gonna have after a few years. So you have to figure, if you want to keep learning, you have to figure out ways to like keep messing around with new stuff, I think. Yeah, sorry, I've been messing with this pattern for like 10 minutes now, but the end goal, we're gonna make a matrix portal thing. It looks pretty weird right now, but it's all right. It's gonna be cool at the end. Plus, we're gonna have a lot of motion blur, so just cover it with motion blur. Let's see, this guy. Let's stencil it by this. All right. Boost it a tiny bit. That's kind of interesting, maybe. Where's my hallway thing? I don't even know. It's here. Let's put the glow after the instead. Wait, did I bake that in? I think I baked in my glow into the crop. I wish more studios would use Blender. I don't know why nobody does. I think it's just that they don't have deep compositing. So I tried to message the developers like multiple times to get deep. I think that's like the main thing, at least from a compositing standpoint, that holds it back. But there's a bunch of pipeline stuff and a bunch of reasons. But if you want to do freelance direct client, which is different than studio work, Blender and Nuke is a really interesting combination. You know, people might crap on Blender, but most of those people have no idea what they're talking about because they've never actually done like real freelance work. It's not studio work. It's not the same thing. But Blender's a really powerful software, just like any, you know, it's a 3D software. It has ray tracing or path tracing, and it has Eevee, which is really powerful for compositors. So to be able to switch between something that's kind of like a game engine and something that is like an actual proper, you know, path trace thing, that's where I think it's really interesting from a compositing standpoint. Because you can actually you can merge, you can blend those renders together. So that's where I think I don't really agree with people who like say Blender's not a powerful tool. I think it's sort of this weird like software elitism type of thing. I don't really agree with it. Let's see. This is interesting, but I don't know why my glow is baked into it. What else do I need to do? I'll just export this into Blender. Let's see. How do I write geo here? Let's do this. Hallway. Blender is really interesting. I think for virtual production as well. I think like indie level virtual production, which is something that I am interested in. I think Blender is actually going to be the best software for it. Like indie sized teams. Not Unreal actually, because like I think if you're doing indie level virtual production without an LED screen, it means you're gonna be compositing anyway, which means you want full AOVs, you're gonna have renders, all those things. And the cost of a render farm is like pretty minimal. If you're just rendering a few shots out of Blender, unless you're doing crazy heavy scenes. But virtual production is usually some kind of relatively simple environment behind the person. So yeah, I've done work with some companies or one company around that, and I don't know if you guys saw that tutorial. It's a jet set tutorial, but they're pretty serious about making that like a real workflow, and they're really pushing on it. So it's super interesting, at least for me. I think it's just like really interesting workflow. What am I doing here? I need to do a right geo, and then I need to save this. Save it on hallway walls. .obj. Save this. All right, let's load this thing, and we will import. Let's see. geo, hallway walls. I'm gonna save this as a separate script or a separate shot. Under scene. Walls. Okay, that's good. Let's get the camera as well. I don't know if this camera speed is good. I might still have to adjust it. It's a little bit fast. Hallway camera, limbic. Forget which one. There's one that crashes and one that doesn't. I think this is the right one. Pretty sure. And we'll say, is this the right camera? Doesn't look right. No, that's not the right camera. This is the right camera. Should be using one camera, but we're going fast, so it's all right. This goes to 180. Let's see. Okay. This guy, import. Hallway. Under geo, export images. Where did I save that? Hallway walls. I gotta import a limbic. Or limbic. This is not right. What did I do? Didn't put a limbic. Dot a limbic. To range 180. And save. And refresh. There we go. Okay. Now we should be somewhere. Yeah, I mean, LED volumes have a lot of downsides, that's for sure. I mean, and they're never talked about in the marketing, so it's always kind of funny to watch the marketing because the reality of them and the reality of setting them up and the pre-setup, I don't know if it's necessarily like there's a lot of situations in where you're actually losing probably a lot of money versus like actually saving on cost. But you're not supposed to say that. Let's put this one here. Just want to fix this. Geometry. Why is this not right? This is not the right position. Maybe I didn't even place this yet. That might be why. Need to put this in the right world space. Where's my outer wall thing? That's, yeah, that's why. And let's see, frame 194. Yeah, I forgot to move this. These are supposed to be here. I'm gonna replace this with a checkerboard because loading that thing every time, you don't want to be loading blink script stuff while you're placing it because that's just gonna slow everything down. Okay. All right. Something like this. That'll work. Let's check. This is correct. Then I'll mask it by this. Just make sure. Just make sure. The mask. Okay, there we go. Cut out. Okay, it's good. We got this. This guy needs to go in there too, so I probably need to move it again. With the wrong camera. Put this guy in the right spot. Oops. Okay. Okay, that's sort of interesting. It'll be cooler when it goes through the portal. And once it's not flat walls. I'm gonna make the pattern flow around the floor because right now it's just gonna be a harsh cut, which I don't want. So I want to import the new geometry. And I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna UV it so it bends. Because I don't want. I don't want it to be like that. Way. Yeah, I just read the comment now. If you're more interested in effects, Houdini's gonna be the one for sure. I really like the plug and play nature of Blender though. Like you need snow, like in that last shot I did, the last sequence I did, normals based like shading and stuff like that, snow on different surfaces, or 3D geometry snow generated automatically. Of course, you could do those things pretty easily probably in Houdini, but just having things out of the box, it's like, hey, $10, and now you have the functionality. I kind of value my time over inventing everything. So I don't necessarily feel the need to invent everything. If there are like really cool tools that already do it, it's kind of like almost like people who use Cinema 4D over other 3D packages. I think it's like you're on a like sort of higher level of abstraction in terms of it's burying more. You probably can't do as much technically, but the things you can do much faster because it kind of buries some of that, the process of inventing everything from scratch. Hallway geometry. Okay, this is good now. Import. Why is that not importing? Let's plug this off. Geometry, that's why. New. New. There we go. All right, we're in the game. We're in the game. Just import the other piece as well. I'll make sure. Doorway. Okay. Cool. Now I want to bend these guys that I can UV it all the way over. I'm gonna put them under a center thing. So we're not gonna see the very center. I have an idea how to cover it up. All right, this. Now we need to UV it. I think we could just auto UV. Let's try. Yep, we're good. These guys, make sure this is on. These ones. Yeah, okay, so this is right to left right now. I want it to be left to right, so I'm gonna scale it negative. Let's do just rotate it 9. What could I do? Scale -1. To be left to right. But I want that to be -1. There we go. And then this. I know there's a way to fit the scale, I think, but I don't remember how. Just line it up. Anyways, we're not gonna see the seams because we're not trying to make a loop, so it doesn't matter. I think I can copy UVs, but could I do that? Let's just duplicate it. It'll be faster. Wait a minute. Duplicate. Where is this? Delete this. Hide these guys. This guy and this guy. There we go. Duplicate this guy. Let's set the vertex to the center, origin, clear transforms, object, apply transforms. Where is it? Duplicate, scale -1, wrong negative. Oh, that's weird. Should scale the opposite way, right? Oh, I guess I gotta move it over. Turn on snap. Snap to vertex. Okay, there we go. It'll work. Let's just import it and test to make sure. Hallway flow geo selection Latin. I'm missing. There's one more here you always have to press, otherwise the limbics break in from Blender to Nuke, and I can't remember. What am I remembering? I think it'll work. Usually it's flatten hierarchy. I don't know. Sometimes there's a values that break it. All right. Let's see, Regio. Low. Okay, that's interesting. Not what I was hoping for, but I could rotate this 90 degrees. Should work. Oh, I guess I UV'd it horizontal. Need to flip this. Do I want to flip this? I want to flip this. Set box 3, 6, 5, 7. That's not right. That's not the actual box, is it? 3000 is not. Three, 2, 3, 6, 5, 6. All right, so we got this, and then we'll flip it by 90 degrees. Scale it. I might make it look a little weird, but we'll try it. Now this should flow on the walls, and it should flow down the floor. So actually, it's not going to cut on the floor, which is what I was trying to avoid with this. That's why I had to bring in Blender. Because if I use 2 pieces of geometry, it's going to be annoying to get these little dots to flow across the geometry. So it's just the easiest way to do it. You could probably do it a different way, but I think in Nuke you could just bend a card as well. It might be easier. Might have been easier. Let's see. I just don't like manipulating geometry too much in Nuke heavily. Just it feels less controlled. But you could do a deform, and then you could do one of these, and you could set a number of things. But you see, like it's like grabbing points and stuff like this, which like I don't know. I mean, technically it's fine, but I mean, this would work. I mean, maybe this would have been faster. I don't know. I'm not going super detailed anyway, so anyways, I have to go in Blender no matter what, because I want to create like a center floor thing. Want to create some, well, that kind of looks cool. I don't know. Let's just see.
Yeah, I could use the display studio. I kind of want real geometry there. I mean, I guess you could just use displace. Um,
Okay. I want to make this a little bit wider, so let's tweak it.
that's one geo.
Make it a little wider. Whoa, why is it clipping? That's weird. Why is it clipping? Oh, I have these guys plugged in. Okay, that works. A little wider. Shift it over a little bit. Oops. Wait, one. That's kind of cool. I was gonna have some like lines flowing towards the nuke symbol. I was gonna do like a center thing. How would I do it without making it look weird? Also need to fix this little thing. But this blink script thing is pretty cool actually. You can actually increase the density. So I want to increase the count. I can just do this. This without blink script would be a little bit, this would be very, very slow, I think. Tiling in Nuke is not fast if it's not on the GPU. So GPU effects are pretty interesting. Oops. Whoa, that's pretty cool. That's looking pretty cool. A little bit too saturated, on maybe a little too glowy even on this. I need to like do something about the walls as well. What could I do? Yeah, they need to update the GPUs. Well, I don't know. There's not that many blink script stuff out there right now anyway. Whoa. This is a little bit too glowy, I think. I'm not sure about the green either. Let's see. I think it's this one that's a little bit too much. Just gets a little bit too glowy everywhere. Just blur this. Little bit way too much actually. Yeah, the interesting thing about this tool is you can blur the UV paths, so Like this is the UV path that's generated, but you can kind of smear the coordinates together, and then that allows you to like. There's always going to be a little seam somewhere, but you could offset. You could offset it. So there's a way to fix it, but that's the only downside. But I don't know how else you'd make stuff flow around the edges. I really don't. Still too much. Gamma up a little bit. No, this is the Matrix. There's no hemisphere in the Matrix, bro. Come on. The Matrix isn't real. No clouds in the Matrix. Would look cool though. It would look cool. Put some Compositing Academy smoke elements in there. Come on, guys. You know where to get your smoke elements. This is where we get them. Let's see. Look at this, guys. Got some smoke elements filmed on the FX3. Look at this. I need to do more videos of these because people don't know. Like, pretty good deal. No subscription. No subscription. Do it one time. But yeah, I'm gonna put the free plugin of this flow thing on here as well. But you got these. These are what I'm talking about with the elements. I need to do more videos of these because I don't think I've demonstrated enough how I think these are useful. I've used these in a bunch of freelance stuff actually. It saved me a bunch of times. There's like 200 of these like energy stuff. With this tool, with this stretching tool, I really think it creates a different workflow. I'm gonna use it. If nobody else uses it, I'm just making it for myself. But that's here as well. There's like 200. I spent like a month making all these crazy effects. So somebody might find it useful. A bunch of energy effects. And you don't have to simulate anything. So it's pretty cool if you want to just like make your own stuff or combine them. There's so many interesting ways to warp them together. I like working with elements a lot. So I was like, how much variation can I pack into there? And then that kind of helps me in any future shot if I need to create an engine or I need to create a force field. I have more interesting shapes to start with, and I can just iterate faster. That's why that exists. I think I've used them in most of my tutorials and stuff. Like the ship, I just used them as well, I think. But okay, I could pre-comp this. I don't want to render on stream. Let's just see how long this is gonna take. Input. Let's see. Okay, it's not that slow. Might take like 2 minutes. I'll work on other stuff. I don't wanna render. Do not want to render. That's kind of cool. All right, let's get some geometry flowing this way. I want to model something that looks good with a sphere. Let's just do a card first and see.
probably gonna look like crap, but we'll try it. That's cool. Scale this up. I need to use a different pattern. It's a little bit stretched. Yeah. Do this. This is what's good about Nuke. No pre-comp. You can create this whole node graph, change one thing. Not going through After Effects layers. After Effects is dead. Stop using it. Okay, let's do this. And missing a little bit here. Cool. Is that working? Feels like. Be cool if they like float into it somehow. Like if I actually warp the coordinates to like flow into the circle. I don't know how I would do that. It could be interesting though. How would I do that? I mean, I could. All right, I'm gonna try that thing. Just gonna try this place. Flip this thing. Pencil. I want to invert this. And transform it down. Transform invert. Whoa. Whoa. That's not what I want. I want opposite. I'm gonna blur it. How do I make this taller? Could fade off the edge as well. Might help it. A little bit weird right now. What does it look like if I just bend it like crazy? Fade off the edge. Crop it. Place. Just fade off the edge a little bit, maybe. It's kind of a hallway. I mean, I could make it. Yeah, I could do a circular hallway. I know how you do it. You just do a. You could do a polar distort. Just do this with a polar distort, and then you just stretch it like a crazy cylinder. Actually, yeah, you could do it like this. Just circle like. Well, that one's pretty trippy. Whoa, that's really weird. But you could do that and then just stretch. But then it's not really coming towards the camera. How would you do it? I think you could. Yeah, you just flip it. Wait a minute. Yeah, just flip it like this, and that would come towards the camera. And then you could project this onto. You could project it, or you just make a cylinder with the UVs facing like that, and then it would just come towards the camera. That would be cool. Does that look cooler? I'm gonna try it. Let's see. Looks trippy. So that's we're going in the Matrix. We're going in. Trying to make a Matrix shot, not LSD. God. All right. Let's see. Matrix. The ugly scale. No. Can't do it. Let's continue down the path. All right, let's just see what this looks like comped, because this is only part of the effect. We still got to fly through that window thing. I'm going to do a whole distortion. So we'll see what that looks like. That looks weird right now. That would be cool. Particles, if you made those into particles, that'd be nuts. I don't even know what that would look like. You could emit like super tall cards or something. I'm gonna have like little like digital patterns like coming out of this as well, like spreading into the node graph. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'm gonna zoom into this hole. It's gonna be like a meme, kind of like I'm typing flow warp, but then it's gonna like glitch into this matrix thing, and then we're gonna fly through it. Yeah, we're gonna fly into this hallway. Like this. Let's see. This looks pretty weird. But I got it add a front to it. Right now it looks weird because it doesn't have a... I want to do the effect where you actually fly through a screen. So this is not cache right now, so it looks pretty... It's pretty slow. But we're gonna fly through it like this. So we won't see like the hallway for super long, but I need to fix the edges. It still looks kind of weird. I don't have any dates on the next course stuff yet. That was, yeah, I'm gonna make some stuff around it. It's gonna take a while. I have some other projects I gotta finish first that go with it, so I have like a bunch of stuff I gotta finish. So I don't have an exact date yet for that stuff, but it's coming. It's on the way. Yeah, this is gonna be cool though. I want to do like a transition of this appearing as well, kind of. Yeah, I need to play with that. I need to play with the edge still. I want to have it spreading though. I kind of want, because part of this I'm trying to show this flow warp thing. So I want to show. Wait, let me see. Flow glitch wave. I have this script as well. That's not really. Where is it? I have another. Wait. It's not that one. Flow paint. This will be part of it. Is this it? Maybe this is it. Oh, this is like, oh, this is kind of the idea though. You just take a noise pattern and you can make very sharp noise. It's kind of similar to the effect around the logo, I guess. But this is where the curve tightness is really cool, because you could have something very like, come on. It's gotta take a second. Usually it takes a second to cache the first time, but once it's cached, it's like pretty fast. It's almost instant. That's how Blink script kind of works. Yeah, this is like the bent version, so you can get like, you can have arcs of electricity or something, or you can have something that's like literally super tight around the edges, so it's like a circuit board. So I want to do something more like a circuit board, but these are some of the examples I'm going to show. Some of the, you know, you can make different types of trails and stuff like that. This would be, that would be annoying to do normally. And this is literally just taking a little thing like this and just offsetting it. And then you're just doing a flow warp. Now you get these little strings. And that's cool. And you can also do normalized samples. So it'll like turn the edges. It'll, if you normalize it, it'll go the same speed the whole route. But if you don't normalize it, it'll slow down around the corners, which is a little bit more realistic, like physics. So I don't know. Either way, there's two different situations where maybe you would want that. Yeah, this is another example. Yeah, I mean, you could do bugs. You could do, I don't know, like a comet or something. Like this is an effect I made in that pack. So there's like these energy waves, these force field, I called them like force field splashes.
but it's just going up right now. But in the past, you could just take a piece of geometry and warp it. It's still super useful. But if you took this splash and then you kind of warp it, you could have it like wrapping around a character or something. Or like any kind of like particle effect around a person or something. You just draw the thing. So here I just bent it upwards, which is kind of cool. You could probably do something similar to the spline warp, but it would be really annoying. Try to get that on a path. So yeah, I'm gonna close this. All right, let me add some glow onto this thing. Let's see. Let's do this again. Maybe I could brighten the edge a little bit just to make it seem way better. Oops. Stencil. Okay. A little bit too bright. What is going on? This mask this. Mask here. Saturation. Let's do this again. I would say it's not as hard as it seems. It's really not too bad. I made a tutorial that's on my channel for free for After Effects to Nuke. It's pretty helpful. I basically just compare all the main features, like pre-comping, roto, all the basics, and then you'll start to understand why nodes are. Well, if you're using DaVinci, you might be familiar with nodes because Fusion has nodes, but why is this? It's random. Yeah, I don't know. It's just because I thought that was an interesting effect. I'm trying to show off a tool that helps you flow things, and I thought the matrix is a good. I was trying to think of an effect that has a lot of flowing elements. So matrix rain has a pretty cool representation of at least trying to convey the concept to people. Why is this not working though? There we go. Yeah, Nuke is free. Nuke non-commercial is free. So if you want to learn Nuke, you can make your reel. You can make a demo reel. You can do indie films, stuff like that, without paying anything. I think people don't really know that. You can render 1080p. Most limitations aren't even there, so it's pretty good for pretty much any level. And once you get to like the studio level, you either use Nuke Indie or the studio will pay the license. So it's not that often that you're going to be paying a full, like, people think you're going to pay the full studio license, but that's not usually the case for most people. Let's see. I'm gonna get some lens flares on this too.
That is too green. A little bit not what I want. Still think it should be broken up more. Let's do this, but we'll mask it by a ramp. Normally I don't do this where I use a mask input here, but in this case, it's fine. Yeah, exactly. If you want to learn, you can you have no time limit. There's no trial or anything. So I think it's a misconception that you have to pay. Like you can spend a year or two just making your own projects, build a reel, which will help you get hired, because that's all studios really care about is just a demo reel. So it's pretty good for that. Also, if you're doing anything CG, it's really good for CG compositing. If you want to add CG renders into your real scenes and stuff. That's a little bit off. Not exactly. There we go. Invert. That's kind of better. I have a dark edge on the inside for some reason. This part. Need to make a bright edge. Do this again. Yeah, this is more the creative stuff. There are some technical stuff. I personally like doing the look development. It's my favorite stuff. People like doing there's different aspects, but yeah, this is where it gets pretty interesting. Especially when you do 3D. We're just doing 2D right now. I'm kind of doing I'm kind of doing 3D. I have some 3D geometry stuff. So this is kind of 2.5D compositing. Just trying to get this edge. There's a little black edge I'm looking at, and I don't know where it's coming from right now. Here we go. There we go. Done. Done. Let's make that plus. I don't know why I see dark. I don't know. It just looks like it. Let's look at some other glitch stuff, because I have another pattern that I might use. I have a few different ones. Not this one. These are a few different ones I was making. I was making a few different variations of this. This one's pretty crazy. This one too. This one's more like a graphic interface though. I'm using mostly this one, but that's pretty cool though. Too. Yeah, this edge gets broken up by the pattern that's going into it, so it's good for like transitions. I don't know if it's necessarily the right thing for what I'm doing. That's why I like this one, because it's a little bit more solid. Maybe I could do something with this one. No, that one looks... This one looks like a pixel... I don't know if this is what it's called. I forget what it's called. There's like there's a term for this. Pixel something stretching. Oh, this is a crazy effect here. This isn't working quite yet. I have something I'm working on. This is gonna be a crazy node, but that's not for now. You can see I'm just like messing around with a bunch of stuff, but this is a log distort too. I'm gonna release that one. Just helps with creating spherical distortions. Different way to do a spherical distortion. Pretty cool though. All right. Well, let's check this out. What time is it? How long have we been streaming? How long have we been on? Let's see. What time is it? 5:41. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna call it. Actually, I gotta finish this up. This will be next tutorial. Hopefully, it'll look finalized once we publish it. I'm gonna do this Moire effect as we pass through. Try to make a nice transition. Probably, but I need to pre-comp some stuff out here so I can watch it and see where I'm at. So I won't do that on the stream because that would be pretty boring. Anyways, that's about it, guys. Just experimenting, making some stuff. Gonna release a free tool and some other free tools. Happy Monday. Hope it's going well. And that's about it. If you guys want to learn Nuke Compositing Academy, got a bunch of courses. Best tool for visual effects. If you want to do motion graphics, maybe stick with After Effects. But you want to work on movies, episodic, things like that, then Nuke is definitely the way. And we will end it with this again. Not this. There you go.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.